We are back with Trigger Day After Podcast. Yes. We are in season 4. We are rocking and rolling, baby.
Listen, the whole rock and whole rolling. We told y'all we were going to be doing a lot of in-person interviews this season, and we are just getting started. We have a special guest.
We do. I'm so excited. Okay, so I don't know. I'm so excited for some reason. I get excited for all our guests, but this guest is extra special, y'all. So we have the founder of Insta Podcast on our podcast. Now, the best part about this is that she manages and produces our podcast.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's very much a full circle moment, honey, because she's here with us, and the reason why it's maybe a little bit ironic that she gets to be here is because she knows our podcast from the very, very early stages.
From the beginning.
So it's such an honor to have her here and for her to see how much we've grown and for her to be such a big part of how much we've grown and for her to get us in line sometimes and tell us that we need to post more and tell us to upload our YouTube videos and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Which we do now.
Which we handle that now.
Which we need y'all to go and watch.
You guys, she is our checks and our balances, and she keeps us in line
and accountable.
She's all the things, and you guys remember especially if you follow me on Instagram, that Alicia spoke at it, and I attended the Innovative Income Summit that her and her partner Megan throw, which is so amazing, and I'm never gonna miss one ever again. It was just one of the best summits I've ever been to. Yeah. So she is a leader and a lover of women and community. She's a mother. She's just all the things, and of course she's our friend.
Yes.
And we're just so happy to have her because y'all, she been healing, y'all, and she's very vocal about it. And what I love the most about her journey and her vulnerability and her willingness to share is she talks about how hard it is. And I know that all these gurus and all these people make it seem like healing is a one size fits or fix all. It's not that. And she keeps it all the way real. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about doing your homework for real, like really going home after therapy and be like, okay, how do I apply this? What does this look like? What does it feel like? And how do I still feel like I'm healing when I feel like shit every day? And she talked about that on her stories all the time. So she's gonna tell you where to follow her at the end, but that is her specialty. Is I'm gonna tell you that I'm healing right now, but it sucks, okay? And we need to hear that. We need to see that, because there are times when you're like, am I doing this right? Right?
I'm positive I said that this morning.
So welcome. I know it was a hell of an introduction, but I told you I was excited.
Listen,
I'm here.
I love it too, because as she was introducing you, I was listening to all the roles and the hats that you wear and that you carry, and too many times, because it's a human thing. I do it to people do it to me. Yeah. It happens, but we assume the roles and the names that people call us without ever truly defining like who we are. And I ask every single guest, because I really do want to know, like, who do you say you are?
Out of all the roles.
Out of all the roles, all the things, like, who is Jess to Jess?
Oh, I got the chills. From the intro, so thank you. And I always do that for other people, but hearing it from me was like, wow, no one's ever hyped me up like that. And then this just came to me. And I would say this is like what I always go back to out of all the things, mother, founder, those are all things I had to become. Yeah. I would think at my core, I've always known I was a messenger.
Ooh,
always.
I like that. I got chills. I had to sit back. Okay.
Yes, messenger.
Okay.
Yes, someone take a sip. Who sent you, sis?
This couch is not big enough for all this energy. You're aware, right?
We just gotta stretch a little bit.
Gonna make my foot on it.
Exactly. That is so good, though. A messenger.
I like that.
You know what, too? A messenger has to be willing to feel and hear it first.
Ooh.
Because in order to be, I'm telling you, it's the energy on the couch. Because I literally sweat. Yes. Ooh. A messenger gets hit first.
All the time. That would explain my entire life, actually.
Yeah. So, and the messenger has to take the risk of maybe not being able to make it back.
Exactly.
Think about back in the day, like when the Greeks
there was no guarantee. And then they would be like, I don't like the message. Boom, go into the dungeon. you may not make it back.
The episode's over. It's over. That's it.
Damn, I didn't even think about that before.
Listen, because you know I grew up in the church and we was always reading about messengers.
We was like, I know exactly what happens at the end of this journey. Whose messenger are we?
That is crazy too. So then, and this ain't even one of the questions, so I can go ahead and put this
Go
down.
for it.
But so then, as a messenger, how do you then protect yourself to ensure that you can stay around to receive the next message, to be able to give
deliver,
it?
yeah.
To deliver it to those who you were sent to bring messages to. Because that's the thing.
And I have a follow-up after that.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a good question, I think. And I don't know if this is the answer you're looking for.
Oh,
but
no, it's whatever.
I think it's being rooted in just that. That if as I've learned along the way, that is my purpose. Because I feel like I've been hit on all ends around that. Like every time I'm led down a spiritual journey, or anytime I meet with a spiritual intuitive, they literally will tell me, you know this is part of your journey, right? Like you are the one that is supposed to receive, and it happens to you because, and this is my big why. So I say that's my role, but I know for a fact my why is to put words to things that people feel that they don't understand. My job is to feel it first, because there is one thing I know that I can stand in, and there's a lot of things I'm not confident about. But one thing I know I'm confident in is I know I can articulate things in a way that people will be like, I have felt that, and I have not been able to explain it, and thank you for putting it that way.
Yes.
But the only way that I can explain what I feel is feeling it.
You gotta feel
And sitting in it.
Yeah.
And the times when it's so painful, it's like I just have to go back to that. I have to root myself in that. Like, if God told you that your entire purpose on earth was to feel things so intensely that you would only be able to transmute that to someone else for them to understand what they feel, instead of avoiding it, instead of suppressing it, instead of allowing it to turn into disease, and instead of allowing it to change the trajectory of their life, but you can sit in it and feel it and then articulate it, that means you have to sit in this pain. That means you have to allow this to happen. That means no matter how bad you want to be in control and you want to use your masculine to change the situation, you actually have to sit in your why right now and sit in this and allow yourself to feel.
You know, it's kind of like the parable, and this is what
I saw it, Danny. I wanted to grab it for you.
My lash was like, hey.
It literally was like, I'm coming.
I'm coming for you. But it's kind of like no matter what you believe, there is a parable when
here grandma goes.
I know, I was like, here we go.
Here we go with the here
this
past
beautiful.
Reese go.
No, this is beautiful, because not enough people want to be like their grandma. Everybody want to be like somebody else. Go ahead, you do that.
Yeah,
do grandma.
that's
go back to the basics. Take us there.
my grandma was a hoe, so
I knew it was coming.
it's okay. I love her. They both were.
My grandma was
Sorry, love y'all, but they were. It's okay. But no, but there's a parable where it was time for Jesus to be crucified. And he went up unto the mountain and he was lamenting like, hey, yo, God, if this cup could pass from me, can we
I gotta do
can
this?
we
Is
can
there
we
another
do that?
way?
Like, can we like go maybe down the street and around the corner and not have to go straight through this this basically murder type situation that I'm gonna have to experience? And it was literally like, I love you, and you're still going to have to go through this in order for you to deliver, set free, and bring those who want freedom. In order for them to get here, you will have to do this. You will have to experience this immense level of pain, of sacrifice, of healing, of all the things, because I need you in order to get here. There is no way to the other side unless you go through. And so to hear you speak, and I also think about it in my own life, and it's like, babe, you'll have to make a choice. You will have to make a choice that understand no matter what happens, there is an other side to it, because everyone else thought
like this all the time.
Yes, everyone else thought it was death, but on the other side was complete and total freedom for not just himself, but for so many others. There was such a big, brilliant, beautiful life on the other side, but for so many of us, we refuse to feel, so there is no real healing, so we never get to what that other side looks like.
Our greatest.
And we know how Jesus got here. But Jessica, how did you get here? And I'm being funny, but how did you get to this place of kind of owning that? Because it sounds like, okay, all right, I got it, I figured it out, but we know it doesn't start like that. So what do you feel like was your catalyst to kind of start you on this journey of wanting to heal? Because for some people, it's something dramatic. There's something traumatic that happens. There's somebody who inspires them. Like, what was it for you that was like, oh, it's time to go deeper?
I wish it wasn't. I wish I could say it was inspiration. So you're always running either like towards pleasure or away from pain. I'm typically running from pain. But it's beautiful that you say that, and it's beautiful what this show is about, which is triggered as fuck, right? And I swear I have learned you are only as healed as your next trigger.
Oh.
And
take notes, sis.
You're only as healed as your next trigger. My biggest trigger was recent, was about almost 2 years ago at the top of 2020. I was in a relationship for 7 years. For certain thought this was the one. We had a child together, we were engaged. And just at the top of the year realized things were no longer meshing. We had different goals. We were not seeing eye to eye anymore, and decided we could not make it work. It was, what do you call that in a divorce paper? Like you just...
Dissolution.
Irreconcilable differences.
There we go. Irreconcilable differences.
Everybody got irreconcilable differences.
Everybody, but it wasn't vibing anymore. And as someone who know your attachment styles, because I've learned that mine is an anxious attachment style based on my wounds as childhood wounds and just who I am. Yeah. So I thought it was the right thing to do, and it was. But the journey it put me on. Someone should have told me to get a seatbelt and and a helmet, because I was not ready. I was not ready. Oh my God. And so the first thing I told myself was, I just remember I was running my business for 2 years at that point, and I had 2 business coaches, and I laid in bed one night and I said, okay. And I have a two-year-old, and I said, okay, I don't want to date, and no offense to him, but I said, I don't want to date another person like this. Mm-hmm. I don't want to end up in another situation like this. Yeah. I don't want to feel like this again. Doesn't mean that, and anyone you allow to love you can also bring you significant pain.
Yeah,
but
that's the risk.
That's the risk.
Opening up yourself.
That's the risk you take. But not that I'm saying I would never experience that again. But I was like, I don't want to be in this unhealed situation again. Yeah. So I fired all my business coaches, and I specifically remember one of them saying, "You're getting rid of your man, and now you're getting rid of your business coach. Like you're gonna fall apart." Ooh. And I was like, well, that's what it's going to take. Ooh. If I can start from a fresh foundation, I'm okay with that. Wow. But what I don't want to do is plow through this, focus on my business, hustle, because I know I can. I've already proved to myself over 30 years I can do that.
I can work.
I can work. I can just redirect my focus. Most of us can. That's a great place to go.
Yeah. It's the easiest way to go. Listen,
it's the easiest way.
When I say I've created magic through heartbreaks,
what?
But now I create albums. They create fire albums. Adele get us every time. Adele is the best. If I know my good sister just going through heartbreak, we about to get some of the best music.
And guess what? She been happy as I don't know what lately. You ain't heard of people.
No music.
There's no music. People create their best work, but that's what's easy to do. So I said, okay, if everything falls apart, if I lose everything, it's fine because I'm already heartbroken. I don't want to go here again. And if I do, 6 years from now, I'll end up dating the same person and end up in the same problems. Yes. So I need to change who I am. I can't be responsible for what he was in this situation. Yes. But what radical self-responsibility can I take? Yes. And that means I have to jump off the cliff into this, like,
head
20
first.
Feet deep, get in the pool and figure out what got you here and why you're here. Yeah. And that journey in itself, which is, it's been almost 2 years. And I really want people to hear this part, and we can deep dive into this, is there's an ing on it. I'm still healing. And I'm in that space where people ask me all the time, like, so are you good now? I have very close friends. Like it's been like a year and a half. Like you all right?
Fine.
Yeah, and it's like if you learn anything about yourself, not only are you as good as your next trigger, and everybody's different, but I've watched myself in cycles, like patterns, right? So either you're gonna take the pain of breaking the patterns, which is ugly. Like
it's not nice.
99% of people don't go there because breaking who you are over 30 years is excruciating because
it feels like losing a limb.
Yeah. You are losing. You feel like you're losing yourself.
You're killing a part because you are.
You're killing a part.
Yeah. You have to die to self.
You do. You gotta die 1,000 deaths.
1,000 crucifixion.
Listen, your own personal. And here's the thing about that crucifixion. You are the person tying you to that cross, putting the nails in your own hands and your feet.
Biggest bully.
Like you are doing it to yourself, but it's like you have to make, again, a decision. Everything is about the decisions that we make.
Yep.
Do you want to every single year, because it'll consistently keep coming back to you. Like this morning I realized, sis, you're gonna have to figure out how not to go 0 to 100 real quick.
I was like, she's like telling me to lead up thinking that it's gonna justify her actions.
I felt justified.
And she's like, let me just tell you how I went clean off on this lady on the plane. I was like, okay, like something had to really happen.
It did.
Right? It did. But her response, right? And what did I say? I was like, dang, you just went 0 to 100 like that? She's like, absolutely. And I was like, okay.
Listen, I'm a whole lot of love and light. Okay? Mm-hmm. The other side of me, Lola, people think I be playing when I'm like, no, my lower self
she's not playing.
She's not good. And I want her to be better so bad. So there's a lot of me that I know I'm going to have to deal with, because the moment I'm triggered, you ain't say nothing but a word. I can thump with the best of them. Let's go.
But think about who you are when you're
I want to get better.
Don't we all? And we should all want to, but just the fact that you're owning that. Think about who you are when you're around the best people, right? Like, can anybody even answer the question of like, I'm my best when I'm around this person? This person in particular. Yeah. I'm my best. I was my best at this age. I was my best in this season. I was my best when I was doing this. You know it because you felt it.
Yeah.
Who was that person? And how can you get back to her? When I think about...
Without anybody else though.
Without anyone else.
Without
That's when the real work begins.
Yeah.
That's when the real work begins, is when you are isolated for a little while and you don't like yourself. Like you realize you don't, I'm not gonna use the word hate, that's a strong word. That there was a season where I hated who I was becoming. But you don't like who you're becoming, and you realize everything that you are allowing in your life or becoming, or the people you're allowing in your life are all rooted in your trauma.
Yeah, it's all a reflection of you.
It's all a reflection of you. The mirror you're creating is just more trash. You're like... Okay.
And then when you have to tell yourself those things, it's like, oh, I'm really like this, or oh, I'm really fucked up. Like when we did that episode about what's wrong with us, pretty much. And it's such a hard conversation to even have with, like, I remember after we filmed it, I was like, I have so much anxiety around this because I don't like it. I just
kind of shit. Trash out here.
You know, I'm like talking about all these things that I've done. And it's just like, even though you know that maybe you're past the knee-jerk reaction of that, you know it's in you.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so hard sometimes to face it and to talk about it and to even heal from it, because it's like, God, I hate that that's even a part of who I am. The person that it's easy to point the finger at the people out there who are like that, but when it's like, oh no, I'm like that too.
It's hard for all of us because so many people don't take responsibility for being like
There's
that.
no accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, especially nowadays, that's not a thing. Like everything is everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
You know, you're always, and then I think people even use healing as an excuse to be an asshole.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm healing, I'm working on it, I'm trying. It's just like, are you working on it? And that's why I want to have a conversation. Yes, that's like, okay, but what does working on it look like?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Everybody's I'm working on it. Oh, don't get a man in a conversation about what he's not doing. Oh, I'm working on it. What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
What are the steps?
I'm reading once a quarter.
What are the actual steps? It's so funny. I told my ex when we were done, like it was finito, we finally had the conversation. And I was just like, hey, you have a therapist, but you need a coach.
Yes, you used to tell me you go to therapy. I was like, why?
Exactly. Because there were like no significant changes.
He need a new therapist. I said he needs a new therapist, because this therapist
you've
is not
been
effective.
the same way for 5 years. What exactly are y'all talking about? And I know I ain't supposed to know because doctor-patient privilege, but you need a coach because
you need something.
This person is trash.
The therapist is allowing you to vent. There's somebody that's not helping you implement.
That's exactly what I said. I said a therapist uncovers, a coach helps you to learn how to work through.
Yeah.
You need a coach. This therapist is cool, but they ain't giving what they were supposed to have gave.
Therapy, but I feel like that's like the baseline.
That literally is the baseline. And you know, it's so crazy too, because when you look at Instagram, right? It's all beautiful. Oh my God, I'm in this healing place, and I'm just so light, and I'm feeling great and airy.
I'm doing my yoga.
I'm doing my yoga, and I love yoga. But all you have to do is journal and meditate and exercise and breathe in, breathe out, and repeat. And all of a sudden, you're in this healed place.
Oh my God, sounds great.
It feels so. I felt good saying it, and also
Listen.
And also, healing really does take you to some really painful places because you have to uncover your own bullshit.
Yeah.
And so that means you do have to sit in your pain, but what do you feel your pain has taught you most?
That was really deep. This is my most recent, and I love that you're talking about this because I thought some of that too, and those are really, the way I describe that is those are just self-regulating tools. Yeah. Those are the tools for you that allow you to silence your thoughts and get clear on what's going on up there in the middle of that chaos, because you do have to be, like they said, don't listen to your thoughts. You actually have to fight back. And so with everything that's going on up there, how can I actually hear what's going on and how can I go past that? Because those are really created from the ego, the things that are meant to protect you. Mm-hmm. So how do I go deeper than that? And one of the things I realized recently, it's like every layer gets deeper, is one of the most recent breath works I did. And I was in Sedona, Arizona at a self-body wild retreat. Wild. It was like an immersion for 3 days. Yeah. Similar to like, I'm sure whatever you did in Bali. And we did this breathwork session for 45 minutes. And I've done deep breathwork before. But I've done breathwork and come out of it and been in the most beautiful state. Like, I heard, let this go, and da-da-da-da, and I heard this person say this. Oh, honey, in this one, I was kicking, I was screaming, I was fighting. The girl had to come up to me and put her hand to the bottom of my feet and like literally send like what felt like an energetic current to calm me down. Like, and she said they had to put space in between me and the two people to the sides of me because I was so physically enraged. Oh, and what I think I've found recently is that like, and then we could talk about EDMR in a minute, but is there's just a lot of anger. And I have tried so hard to get back to the love and light that I've always been. When I talk about that version of me, I know her, I've seen her, I've loved her. Great. She moves and lives in love. Like I literally don't even second guess loving people. I used to not. And now there's just so much anger and frustration and resentment still that I carry that I have to release. And it is me going to a place that I'm afraid of.
Ooh. Can I be honest with you though?
Yes.
So the first person I married, it took me, and I used to feel so bad, it took me so long. Like, my daughter is 12 now, and it literally took me like 8 years. I hope you don't take that long, but I'm just being honest. Like my friends were like, "Oh my God, like you remember?"
Take
like
straight to that.
I didn't
think it was taking you too long though. I thought it was a lot.
I know
that happened. Like I don't believe in that. Like, oh, this amount of time is
half
passed,
of the relationship,
so I should just feel okay. Like,
and I felt
different
bad,
for everybody.
But I felt genuinely bad that it was taking me so long.
I'm ashamed.
To heal. Yeah. I was ashamed. Yeah. I was like, how the hell you let this one man
come in whole different relationships
and fuck up your whole life? He had a baby before we was finished being married. So he was already, and he was moving in with a third person by the time the divorce was finalized. So he had literally, and I was just like, how come I'm not able to just
do the same,
get over it and move through? And like, what is it about me that I just can't work through this? I took 8 years of, dating here and there, but I could not allow myself to go deep with anybody. My daughter was literally about to turn 9 before I was like, okay, I can do this now. And she was, I don't know why it was taking me so long, but what taking that time did, because I wasn't in a rush. My friends, not true. Some of my friends had me in a rush, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're missing out on your best years. Like, you're not going to be able to have any more kids. Like, who's going to want you being like 30 plus and, you not being in a relationship and you have a kid now? Like, and I love this girl, but she was literally making me feel like, well, God damn, I could be just some old lonely maid for the rest of my life because I'm taking too long to heal. But what I am so appreciative about allowing myself the grace and the space to deal, because I was angry for years.
Yes.
I was mad as fuck.
Yes.
Because I'm like, you bitch. And I was talking about myself, not him. You bitch. You literally allowed this person to come in and destroy the best parts of you.
And take your love and light away. Is healing is forgiving yourself.
That was the biggest piece. I was so mad with me.
That's the part.
That is the part.
When you get a shame and you can't forgive yourself.
Deep shame. Like, deep
But
shame.
This is why you do the work. So, hold on. So this is the part where people need to do the healing, because it's, and I say this with Grace, right? Grace. So it's so easy for us to say that we were ashamed of the partners that we've chosen and whatnot, right? But it is so much deeper than that. Yeah. So like I've just gotten to the phase of where I'm like, okay, the part that I'm healing right now is trusting myself, because I can see the walls closing in. Yeah. But in things like, and we could talk through different modalities at whatever point, or I'm sure you all have, but like one of the biggest, I've done hypnosis, I've done Reiki, I've done all the things, and EDMR. And it's really crazy how your subconscious, how powerful it is how it can silence things for you that are never meant to be revisited.
So can you tell us what EDMR is?
For those who don't know.
Yes, so I'm going to say that I don't exactly remember what the EDMR stands for, but I know that it is. Please do. It has something to do with eye regression therapy, and they basically like play music in your ears, which kind of like ignites your prefrontal cortex, I think. Okay. Because you know when they tell you when you're trying to like get rid of anxiety, or you're trying to like wake up your prefrontal cortex, you're supposed to like throw something from left to right. You tap or something. What does it say?
Eye movement desensitization. Desensitization. What?
Desensitization.
Oh shit! Y'all.
New word for y'all.
I've never heard that word. Desensitization and reprocessing. Y'all, this is.
Ooh, that sounds intense.
That's very intense.
Okay, go.
People always say feel the feelings, though, but what they really mean is process the feelings. Yeah. And in order for you to process the feelings, you have to allow them to live their life cycle. Ooh. And it's like, because people are like, I feel disgusting, I'm gonna go out and drink, I'm sad, I'm gonna go do this with someone, I'm this, so I'm gonna go whatever. Like, no, that feeling could last you 3 weeks. Yeah. That feeling could last you months. And like not rushing to fix it, like just sit in it. You need to allow it to run its life cycle, beginning to end. There's gonna be a start high and a low. Like
and remember that the life cycle is more like the life cycle of a fly, not like a dog.
yeah, it's not 7 years. Yeah. It's like 7 days.
Yeah, but it feels like it could be. So you're like, I'm not even gonna let myself go to that space because I don't know if I'm gonna get out.
Yeah, and you be like, no, hashtag gotta go. Gotta get out. Hashtag get out.
Yes, right.
I gotta go. I gotta run.
We're professional runners.
Oh my goodness. And so because we keep running from it, we keep introducing ourselves to it again and again.
And this is why when I hear people like jump into dating we're not sorry, I'm not talking about men. I swear I'm not talking about men.
Even if we are, it's our experience. It's okay.
Like when men and women jump into relationships right afterwards and they're like, no, I feel great. And I'm like, oh my God, like you are just going to go find more and more and more of what you don't want.
The same trauma.
The same trauma, and then just further validate those deep wounds. Yeah. And so through EDMR, one of the things I found, and I only tell this story to really like, I'm not going to use the word glorify, but just really help you guys understand how powerful your subconscious mind is I'm doing this EDMR, and we're visiting this very particular moment in my childhood that I have done in therapy, in hypnosis, in 10 years. It is the specific story that comes up every time, and the therapist goes, oh my God, tell me more about that, right? So I was 5 years old. My mother and father got in a physical fight in front of me, and I sat on the couch and I witnessed the whole thing. They were drunk. Mm-hmm. Now, they're still together, by the way, so that's why this is like a touchy subject, but my father does something very physically painful to my mother, and tries to physically hurt her by putting her in, he kind of like pushed her head into the counter. Okay. And my father walks off. My mother comes and grabs me. She takes me next door and we hide in the bushes. And she literally is like, stay down until he leaves. He leaves, he storms off, drives off. We go to a friend's house. We go back 3 days later. They're still together. He never touched her again. But I have told that story 50 times over. I have forgiven my father. My father and my son have an incredible relationship, all the things. I'm doing EDMR and she brings up this story and I'm like, I have gotten through this. And she's like, I know, but just go with me for a second because I know there's something there. And we're in it, and EDMR allows you to go back and you're literally reliving it. You're there. And it's really scary because it's like you can feel like you're there.
All the things.
I've done that in hypnosis. I've done it. So she has me go in there and I'm watching. And right as it physically happens, my father hurts my mother and he walks off. She's like, stop. She stops the music, stops everything. She's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm sitting on the couch. She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what do you feel? And like all of a sudden I see me and I realize no one had ever asked me that. And I see me and I'm screaming and I'm crying. And she's like, well, what are you saying? What are you doing? And like, so then she plays the music again and my father walks by and she's like, stop. And I'm like, what? She's like, I can see your eyes. They're erratic. What are you seeing? And I'm like, nothing. I don't know. My father's walking by. She's like, okay, go back. So she does it again. And I literally catch this moment that, and I've been talking about this in therapy since I was 19 years old. I'm 32 at this point. I never saw this part. Wow. My dad walks by and I scream and I'm like, Daddy, Daddy, please stop. And he looks at me and he's like, Jessica, shut the fuck up. Oh. And walks past me.
And you didn't remember that?
I didn't remember it. I had never remembered it.
But your body remembered.
But my body did.
Body,
she's like, I
have my legs.
I see the
chills. Oh,
hold on. I could cry. Yes. So I'm about to tie this to tie this together, and I'm not for you.
Look at my legs.
So she goes, and then immediately she's like, "What do you say?" And I tell her, and she's like, she goes, that is the moment that you decided you don't matter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you're telling him, you're screaming, you're begging for him. Hey, help me, soothe me, calm me. And he tells you, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Calls you by your name and tells you, shut the fuck up.
And I start bawling because the phrase "I don't matter" resonates with every feeling I've ever had in every partnership I've ever been in.
That one event.
I feel it shocked, my body went into shock because I was like, that's the thing. That's it. That is always,
that's where we were.
That's what I've been chasing. For a man to tell me that I matter.
Yeah.
That's what I've been chasing.
And performing for it.
Yes.
And performing for it.
Doing all the things.
Validating my word that I am worthy of being exclusive to. Please show me that I matter.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm in this space of telling myself, okay, I don't trust myself in relationships. I don't trust myself. I'm going back and I'm like, okay, you don't trust yourself. Because you stayed in a situation that you knew wasn't right for you, that you knew this person was seeing other people, but it validated your wound. And so you didn't leave because it was further validating the cycle of, I don't matter, I'm not enough, so I'm going to stay so that I can continue
proving to myself.
It feels like home to you.
It feels like home. Red flags feel like home. Like it felt like home. Like I'm subconsciously trying to prove to this person that if I just do enough, I will be worthy of I matter.
Yeah.
That's why I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
I don't trust myself that every time a man makes me feel like that I won't go down double time, 2x my behavior, my
10x,
my thing, all
you.
The things to show you, when in reality there's probably somebody standing 6 feet away that's like, you already matter.
Listen, I'm telling you, it's a whole bunch of them standing 6 feet away.
A lot.
Okay? It's a lot.
But here I am, please tell me that I matter. Like, please let me show you that I matter.
Yeah.
Even though I'm doing more than I should ever do, than I would ever even do for myself.
That's how I was. That's why it resonates so well with me. Now what I do, if I even have an inkling or feel like I have to prove to you who I am, immediately no. Immediately stop. Stop. Because now what I'm doing is I'm now going against who I say I am. Because I have now learned to trust me again. And I have promised my own damn self, we're not doing this no more. This we're not doing. And honestly, yes, it has come from dating multiple people. It has come from allowing myself to enjoy and explore the energies, not sexually, because, my pH balance matters to me.
And loveless sex can be depressing.
Exactly.
For some of us.
For some of us. That's not so it's not about the physical act. It's about learning, how do I want to be treated? What brings me joy? How do I treat me? When I tell you I take myself on some of the best dates, I mean some good times.
If you can't do this for me,
good times.
Why are we here?
Yeah, but it really is teaching myself how to trust me again. And then when I see it now, and I feel the energy coming up, I'm able to now say, this doesn't align.
It doesn't feel right because you're more and. Jess, you talked about that you've done hypnosis, you've done talk therapy, you talked about EDMR. What are some of the other things that you've done, if you can remember, because I know you've done a lot, and what do you feel, what ones were most effective? Because we were talking about this when we were talking about the episode and coming up with these questions, is sometimes when you've been doing something for a period of time, like how your ex was in therapy for 5 years, but he was still getting the same results, there's also this comfort that happens in that space.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can do a little bit, and it seems like I'm doing something, but I don't have to do all of it. And then I can go tell everybody that I'm trying and that I'm working on it. But really, I'm not doing anything different than what I've always been doing. But I'm going to paint the picture because that's hot right now. That's cool right now. That's going to make people think I'm woke or special or trying to be better. when really it's just another place to help validate who you think you are, right? Yeah. So I'm interested in you kind of talking about how you have so much courage to try different things and to say, hey, you know, hypnosis worked for 6 months. I need more. I need to go deeper. I need a different aspect. I need another lens. I need a different perspective on this, because I think sometimes we think that healing is like this one lane trajectory all the time. And then whenever you hit like a ceiling, you just stop. Mm-hmm. You're like, hey, I've done all I can do. I think I'm just fucked up. Like, this is as good as it gets, y'all. Like, I can't get any better than this because I did all the things people said to do. Yeah. But have you done all the things? You know, so that's I want you to tell us a little bit about that. Tony Robbins always says, like, oh, I've tried everything. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Right? So what are some more of those things that you've tried, and which ones do you feel like just about anybody can benefit from?
So I'm going to answer this a little bit differently, and just openly say that for those of you that probably need to hear this for yourself, is I'm a little bit more hard-headed than most people. Maybe stubborn might be the word. So I had like a really interesting wake-up call the other day. I was out at brunch and by myself. I took myself. Ooh, it was a day to myself, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go sit at the bar and just look nice, feel good.
Yeah, I love
that. So I'm at the bar chilling, and I get this Instagram DM, and this girl's like, oh my God, you're even prettier in person. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I listen to your podcast, I have to come introduce myself. And I'm like, okay. So I go outside, I've seen this girl before, she's been in my DM, so we hug, whatever. And she goes, you don't understand, I don't get to tell you enough, but I love you so much, you changed my life. And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I listen to your podcast nonstop, I did everything that you said to do throughout your healing journey. She said, I found a hypnotist. She said, I did therapy. She's like, I journaled. She's like, I meditate every day. She's like, I found habits that matter for me. I did everything you said. And she said, and 6 weeks later, I met my fiance and I'm engaged now.
Oh my God.
Honey, did it hurt you?
Yes. All I could hear in my head was,
I know it hurt you.
Well, I've been doing this for a year and a half and this shit ain't working for me. So it was a great assessment that I was like, okay, but one, this goes back to the messenger, that I was like, okay, my life is very different, that I know that I put that out there for somebody and I don't want to use surface level, but their level of healing, and it doesn't mean, I'm not saying your trauma is less. Mm-hmm. I'm saying the level of healing that you need to move forward in your life may be different.
Absolutely.
And
you could also have less trauma. Like, I think it's okay to say that.
It's a
like,
thing. You
I don't think
have
you're validating people's trauma by saying, hey, I got hit by a car, you got hit by a bike. Like, it's not
there should not be levels to this.
Yeah, it's just because it's like, oh, you can't say because, you know, the trauma is not what happens, it's how you respond. Fine. Yeah. But I mean, there's still there's a difference between a gun and a bomb. Like we can acknowledge that. Like, some of us go through worse shit than others. Like, that's a fact.
Yeah.
100%. And
that's okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And looking at it, when I took a step back, I said, and then going to the modalities is, one, I had to say, okay, out of all the things that I did, they had a life cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And there were things that worked better than others. They helped me get to a certain place. And then really when you wrap it all in a bow too, I was able to look at everything. They kind of all took me to the same place. Mm-hmm. I know what my issues are. I know where my insecurities lie. I know what my wounds are. I just know that now there's going to be ways that I'm going to cope that mean I'm unhealed. And there's going to be places that I can go to get to the next level to really uncover and get out of those things. And the reason I keep going is because there is actually an end goal. And I know we're saying healing, it's it drives me, it's continual, and it drives me crazy when people say I'm healed, because no, you're not. Even if you have to say it, I know you're not. Yeah. But there is an end goal of letting some of these, mastering your shadows. Let's say that. There's an end goal of mastering your shadows. And I think it's not healed as in I let it go, it's never coming back, it'll never trigger me again, and I don't have to worry about it. But there is an end goal of saying, okay, I have decided this thing is from this, and I don't want it in my life because it affects me tremendously in a negative way. So I'm going to master this and get rid of it. And then I'm going to find some other things, and I'm going to say, okay, this is actually a part of who I am, and I'm okay with it because it's part of my drive, it's part of my hustle, it's part of where I'm going to set boundaries and choose good people.
I want to keep you.
So I'm going to put this in the front seat, put a seatbelt on it, and say, you sit here. You don't drive, I drive, but you can stay in the front seat.
Yeah, I love that you just said that, because we don't say that enough to ourselves. It's always all we have to fix. I have to fix this, I have to fix that, I have to heal this, I have to get rid of that, I have to be this other person. But it's like, what about the things I'm like, no, this is okay. I like this part of me like this. Like, I am particular. It's just a fact. if you know me, as anyone that's watching this,
people,
about
men,
everything.
items, bougie women.
About everything. About everything. Ask her when she was making these drinks. What did I say?
There's more strawberries.
No. What did I say when she was about to make the drinks? I want it in that glass.
Yeah, she just
not the cup.
She didn't want the other glass, and I was just like, it's the same glass, and she wanted it
Not
the way
to
she
me.
wants it.
I wanted it this. This is the swimming.
Yes.
Drinking it out of. That's just who I am.
Right.
I'm like that just about everything. As I've gotten older, I've learned to.
As you've gotten older.
As I've gotten older, I've learned to adjust, or maybe not be as vocal when there's a group setting, or when, you know, other people can be affected by my choice. Like, I'm a little bit more conscious now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But overall, I'm very particular, and everybody who knows me knows that about me. But I have no plans. I have no intention of changing that. Like,
But you know
I'm
what?
just gonna be like that forever. You want to know why? Because I know what I want, and I've known what I've wanted for a really long time. Like, I remember being a little girl being like that. Like, I've always been like that. I like the life that I have. I love who I am. I have a lot of work to do still, but overall, I really like myself.
I'm
But you know
I'm
what?
so impressed by that.
But I love that. That's
I just know, like, it's like that doesn't work for me. I don't
Yeah.
like that. I don't want that. I don't eat that. I don't wear that. I don't drive that. Period.
Right.
Oh, that's it. Like, I don't have to justify that to anybody.
Yo.
You do not.
I
And there's a
love
reason
that
for
shit.
that as well.
Yeah.
I love that shit. So like, and everyone who knows me knows, like, I grew up with a really, really low self-esteem. Like, I hated every part of myself. I hated my skin color. I hated my toes. I hated my hair. I hated how poor we were. They're really cute. I know. They're so suckable now. But I didn't know that then. I didn't know that then. I know now, y'all.
I like your little toe, girl.
But there was so much. I hated every part of myself growing up. I get to college and I meet people like a Courtney, who was my college roommate. I meet you, and they were so self-assured. I had grown up in a very religious household. In the church that I went to, the women, many of them hated my mother, and so they would be very, very cruel to me. Like, one of the women, she was so mad at my mother that she went and, like, she beat the shit out of me because she was so angry at my mother. And so if all I'm ever getting are you're bad, you're this, you're to this, you're brokenness, your mama dirty, you dirty, like, you stink. My image of myself was extremely poor. So I get to college, and Danny and I become friends, and she's been particular since the day I met her.
Since before that.
But for some people, that would turn them off.
Yes,
For me,
it does.
it drew me closer because I was like, oh my God, if she can love herself like this, that means it's possible for me too.
Because if you
God.
let it, it'll
Yes.
intimidate you.
I don't give a
And
fuck
that's
about
just,
it.
but
I want to
but
see
if
it.
you allow it to, when someone is
Yeah.
like that, when someone is confident, when someone is particular, when someone knows what they want, even in business, when women are particular and they know what they want, they're bitches.
Yeah.
Everybody
we're
loves
all-
a docile woman that's just like, I don't know, I'm so confused. Get a man, he'll know. It's like, no, I gotta figure it out. But that it puts people off, and I've dealt with that my entire life, and I'm just okay with it because my tribe will gravitate towards me. That's
I
fine.
loved it.
But I just prefer to kind of walk in and be like, hey, that's not it for me. I don't like that. I don't like this. It's just enough. But what I want to say to that point, with all the things that you've done, Jessica, to try to figure it out and to kind of keep pushing when you did something for a long time. And don't forget that these therapy modalities are not cheap.
Baby. High five figures on healing in 2021.
Yeah. Like, can we just talk about it? Like,
That's why I didn't have a business coach, because I was like, can't afford that. I can only afford
to some
this.
extent, healing is a privilege.
Oh, it's a privilege.
You know what I mean? Like, to be able to have access to those things. Even I didn't know what EDMR was.
Like, we had to Google it.
You know, if you grew up in church, hypnosis is demonic, honey.
It's
Like,
demonic.
what is that?
It's
Like,
so demonic.
you
and
know
it's
what
so
I mean?
not.
Yeah, but
It's a
exactly.
gateway to
I do energy therapy, and when I tell my sister I do energy therapy, she's just like,
Oh, God will not. You are, what is it? You're,
are you sure she's not a witch? And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure she's not a witch.
it's that you're, what is it, that you're glorifying another God?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
idolatry. It's all the things. It's New Age spiritualism. It turns
Yeah.
into all these things, especially if you grew up in a religious
Yep.
space.
Yep.
So that's why when I see you talk about all the things that you've tried, I'm like, wow. But I also think, like, God, that sounds expensive.
It's so expensive.
It's expensive.
It is so expensive.
Because they don't take insurance a lot.
Girl, I just went to a retreat center in Arizona, and the girl was like, oh, by the way, Tom Brady and his wife come here every year. And I was like, no wonder the shit was so expensive.
Right, because they have to make their
Brady's.
they have
Like,
to
oh,
make
they
their
slept in this
points
bed over
too.
here. It was 5 figures.
Okay.
So true. Thank you for letting me know.
We got it.
Yeah, it's a lot. So that's why for me, when I hear it and I see it, it's like, wow, like you're really investing in yourself. And a lot of times when we think about investing in ourselves, we're only thinking about going to the business course, buying the printer, buying the camera, buying the physical material things, but we don't really think about investing in our healing.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to be invisibly rich. Like, I'm trying to be rich in real life. I'm trying to be rich in spirit, like rich in like rich in like self-enrichment. I'm trying to be rich in my mind. Like,
for me, it doesn't count if I've got millions and I'm in pain all the time, or I hate myself.
Yeah.
you
or
see
I'm
this over and over and over again.
That was why I liked when I saw that she loved herself so much, because I did not know what loving myself looked like. I hated every part of me. And I met Danny and I met Courtney, and there were these beautiful girls, because I've always been attracted to women who like themselves.
Yes.
That has never bothered me, because I wanted
you
to see
admire in what we admire in people when we're not allowing our healthy wounds to lead. We admire something in them that we already have within ourselves. We just haven't been able to access it yet.
And I always saw that.
Yes.
I always was just like, girl, what?
Yes.
No, but I loved it.
I didn't understand. Because the thing is, when you're looking at it, it's like I just never understood. Like I was like, but why? Like you are incredible.
You're amazing.
You are incredible.
I didn't know that, but it was so beautiful watching her.
Yes.
And actually, the way she moved, and like my girlfriend at the time, and I ain't gonna tell her business, but the way she moved, like when she dated men, I was like, well, I would literally be taking notes. Like, okay, so you don't do that.
There's an art to this.
Yes, I didn't know it.
I just don't be honest, okay?
You know, I didn't know. I was like, okay, so you need to. Okay, I was literally taking notes. That's also, and I'm still like this. I like people who are better than me. It gets me excited.
Me too.
Like it gets me excited. Oh, you are better than me. What can I learn from you?
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. We were doing something, and she was talking about something she can't do, and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
And she was just like, well, yeah, but that's why we're a good team.
That's why
what your strengths are my weaknesses, and my weaknesses are your strengths. And it was just like, God, I wish more people could look at what they think is their competition as a companion. It's just like what you think that you don't have that she has is a benefit to you. Hire that bitch. Make her your friend. Bring her close.
Please don't give a bunch of me.
Don't send me.
Don't put me in a bucket. We will not get out.
Next to all the beautiful bitches.
Yes.
What? And yes, hey girl, come here.
You did your like, how
I've never had that in me, and I've never understood it from a personal space, but I can understand it when you're kind of trying to understand people and trying to be empathetic. Yeah. But it's something that is just like, okay, what causes that kind of feeling? And a lot of it is society. Society pits women against women all the time. So it's just how we are brought up. It's like, okay, we are each other's competition, whether it's for men, whether it's for jobs, whether it's for education. It's just always like, oh, she's over there, I can't get that. And that's because we have this lack of abundance that just gets instilled in us from such a young age. I always say on here, I didn't have a lot of trauma growing up, but I had a lot of shitty conditioning. Just like the conditioning thing. Shitty conditioning. Pavlov, all of them people.
Yes.
That for me was the problem. Because it's so funny where you'll say, I had this traumatic thing happen and this was the result of it. I've had a lot less happen and still got the same fucking result. So it's like, sometimes you're like, so what is the fucking problem that you can have someone go through the worst of the worst and someone have maybe an easier, deck of cards and still end up fucked up? It's just like, what?
Because we're conditioned not to deal with, we don't process things.
We run from it.
We really don't. We literally suppress them immediately, and this turns into disease. This turns
Immediately
to triggers. This turns into all the things. You are not. People do not stop long enough to feel pain. Immediately when we feel pain, we run. Yeah. And it's like pain is not a sign of something is wrong with you or that you are broken. Pain is an opportunity. It's an invitation.
Oh, yeah.
It's an invitation for you to be like, okay, something in my mind doesn't feel right, which means my body has already felt it. Ooh. So my body's already felt it. So now my mind is hearing it. So now what is the invitation for me to address right now? What can I acknowledge? Yes. And then who can I bring on this journey with me to help me address and navigate this? Because there's something that keeps resurfacing. And if you keep getting triggered and if you keep finding yourself in the same cyclical cycles, you have to stop yourself and ask and realize and really sit in your body and go, okay, I'm trying to be me and something keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. So that means I keep going like this and it's getting louder, and I keep going like this and it's getting louder. And that means it's manifesting in other ways. So if you keep pushing it down, it's manifesting. So if it can't come up, it has to get out. Everything is energy and movement, right?
One way or another.
Energy and motion, energy and motion. Like you're literally pushing this energy down that is trying to get out. You have to release it in some way. This is why we have self-regulating tools. This is why we have all these modalities, because they have to be addressed and released. And you have to learn, okay, what part of my shadows do I want? What do I want to keep? What do I want to be my truth? And what do I want to get rid of? And how do I master all of these things?
Yeah. And for you, what was the one thing that was like, this works?
The best, depending on the season.
This is really good. So I'm gonna tie two. I'm gonna say hypnosis and EDMR.
Are you like that?
Those are your besties.
100%, because I think hypnosis has always helped me draw the dots, right? And for me personally, I've had to be very careful with hypnosis because what they use on the back end, because usually there's I don't know what they call like an info or an intro session where they'll dig all the stuff up and they do an incredible job at drawing the dots and what your actual feelings are. Because I had an hypnosis session where I went through the same trauma. What happened? Except she had me go in my mind, and give my little girl a gift. And that she was like, don't overthink it. And like literally I just gave her a circle. And she was like, what is it? And I was like, it's a circle. And she was like, okay, so just like spin 5-year-old you, put your hands on her back and like peek over and see what it is. And I put my hands on her back and I peeked over and all of a sudden the circle turned into a photo and I literally saw it grow. And it turned into a family portrait that we don't have. And she was like, what do you see? And I was like, a family portrait. And she was like, that's what you've been chasing. And I just started bawling. And she's like, you're trying to create this family. So then she gave me some exercises where I went back to really happy moments in my childhood. And I replaced the photo with like a snapshot.
A real one.
Like a real one of the time that I was like really happy.
Because there were those moments. But I'm remembering a certain thing. And so like hypnosis, they do an incredible job. I always explain that it's like they open a filing cabinet and they're like, here's all the things in your life. And then they're like, does this hurt? And you're like, nah. And they're like, what about this? And you're like, it's like a 3. And they're like, what about this? You're like, oh, 10. And they're like, put it back. They're like, okay, we're gonna open it. And they take the paper out. And they're like, you see this? And they make you read it. And you're like bawling. And they're like, this happened too. And then this. And you remember how that made you feel? And you're like, yes. And so in therapy, they make you read it and then they close it and they go, good luck with that. But I think in hypnosis, they're like, good luck with that. They're like, okay, this was it. You remember? You feel it? Okay, good. Okay, we're gonna shred it. And then we're gonna write a new story. And then we're gonna read it a couple times until it makes you happy, makes you laugh. And then we're gonna put it back in the file and we're gonna close the file and we're gonna put it back in your mind. Wow. And then we're gonna close it. And then now when you talk about it, you see, I'm not emotional. I could not talk about that moment in time. Really?
Yes, it has very little, if any, emotional tie to me. And so hypnosis with EDMR, because EDMR really helps you relive those moments. And both of those have the goal, which I don't think people talk about with therapy. Both of those, any good practitioner will tell you, they have the goal of helping you find it, move through it, and get rid of it. They don't want to see you forever.
Listen,
they'd be like 3-4 sessions and you're done. You're good. You out of here. And then if something else comes up, call me in a month. Call me in 6 months.
Yeah. And then it's more so maintenance.
It's maintenance. Yeah. I just called my EDMR girl the other day and she's like, what's going on? And I was talking through her stuff and she's like, well, I haven't talked to you since December. And she was like, I don't even think you need a session. I think you just need to be willing to sit in whatever layer you're shedding.
Listen. Okay. And on that note, like, what does it, and you literally, you brought, this is the last question because I want to make sure, but I have to make sure we ask this question. Yes. While you are on this continual healing journey, going deeper, what does your self-talk sound like? Like, I feel like, and we have to close it with that one because sometimes people talk to themselves crazy.
Ooh. Self-talk. And that's how you know when they're talking to you crazy. Imagine how they talk to themselves. Jesus. That's how you get people grace.
That's why I gotta stop cussing people out.
Cuss yourself out sometimes?
I do.
Okay.
I be like, bitch, get it together, sis. But at least I'm consistent. Curse at her and curse at me.
That's such a good question. It's I always know when my self-talk is. So right, 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, right? So they say,
lots
right?
of them.
Lots of them. You are supposed to, your natural primitive brain takes you to a negative place every single day. It is unavoidable. All that positive, super positive BS, like you just need to like change your perspective. Yes, you need to change your perspective, but every single human goes into a primitive negative place because that is there's a part of your brain whose job it is to just say, that's not a good idea. Like, because from former experience, that actually didn't work out for you. Even when it's like
we're trying to keep you alive, bitch. Just listen.
Yes, like it's part of your primitive brain. So like your job is to educate and then talk through those things or navigate those things. But I always notice when my negative talk is longer lasting or it is days on end or whatever, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm around the wrong people. I'm consuming the wrong things. I'm feeding the anxiety because there's a baseline amount of anxiety that actually I talked to a neuroscientist that said it's actually okay. It actually allows you to focus. But like when my anxiety is rising, like I can tell I'm self-sabotaging. I'm like, this self-talk has gotten like way too loud and I'm nearing self-sabotage. So I need to kind of backtrack. But I know for a fact I've heard thoughts, like I would say recently, it's always when I'm in rooms with bigger people. I always feel like that I don't hear this, but I have thoughts along the lines of like someone's gonna pierce the veil. Like I'm in rooms with people I admire and I'm like, somebody's gonna like lift the curtain and be like, see my 6-year-old self. Like this little girl has no idea what she's talking about.
Where you're gonna feel exposed.
Like I'm gonna feel exposed. Like they're gonna pierce the veil. Like that mask you're wearing, like boop, like poke that. Like I see you under there. Like I see you hiding. Like thoughts like that, and then just I feel like when I hear people that are really educated or just on their shit or in their zone of genius, that sometimes I'm like, I know I don't sound like that. Like, I need to do better. I need to get better. And the way for me that I always break that talk is, and for certain, I think I validate at least 10 times a day that I'm unlovable. Like, say things to myself like, men don't notice me, or unless I'm dressed nice, men don't notice me, or no man actually cares enough to make me someone special in his life. Like, definitely, for sure.
Okay.
And the way that I always break that, I don't know that this is appropriate, but there's 2 ways, and they're bipolar. One is doing something completely uncomfortable and out of my element. Completely. Whether that is like, I will literally go outside and jump on a jet ski. Because like the other day I literally went jet skiing randomly and I was like full throttle and I heard like all these positive affirmations in my head. I was like, bitch, you can do whatever you want. Like, yeah. Like I'm like, it feels so good. Why do you question yourself? And then, so that's one way, you know, or like speaking engagements or whatever. Like I just have to get myself into that zone of like, what do you mean you think you can't do this stuff? Like you literally can. You just have to change your perspective.
Yeah.
And journaling is like one of my real obsessions. I wish I had it with me. I have a very specific journal. I call my feelings journal that I've journaled in for 2.5 years. It has everything that I've ever thought in my mind. But there's a creative part of it where I do this thing when I really know I'm not in the right place where I call my perfect day. And I'll pick a random date in like 6 months, 9 months, a year from now. But that's like feels achievable, feels like that day will come. And I write out in grave, intimate detail, senses, hear, feel, smell, what my perfect day looks like. And
I love that.
And it's like I draw this like future and like I can remember my latest one because it was fun. And I'm never doing anything crazy. Never. It's never like I'm getting off a plane and I'm walking into Dubai. Like it's my latest one. Like I was like, just let yourself go. Like meditate and write the perfect day. And it ended up being Halloween. And like right when I went there, I just imagined myself buckling my son into his car seat and he had on a costume and it was like hilarious. And then I got in the car and we were listening to music, dancing. And then we went and got fries and because he loved fries. And we're driving and then I met with Megan, my best friend, and her man, and when I got out, I could smell like the fall air. And when I saw her, she was, knock on wood, I hope this day comes soon, she was pregnant. And she's wanting, soon to be pregnant.
Yeah.
And so she was pregnant, and like we were walking with my son, and she was waddling, and it was just like this really beautiful moment. And like by the time I'm done, I'm smiling so hard, and I'm like, life is really beautiful, and it's whatever you make it. Like we just allow our mind to run us, it controls us, it consumes us, and we literally like live in this false like evidence appearing real, this fear mindset of things that don't even exist. We're anxious about things that haven't even happened.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ugh.
So
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I love that.
Sense.
Write a perfect day out.
I like that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I want to try that too.
I love when people are like, I can't journal all the time. And I'm like, oh, there's so many creative things you could do. Don't try that.
Listen. So we want to know, like, where can we stay connected? How can
So you can see all the things that she talks about. She talks about it on her stories.
On her podcast.
Very consistent. She's a great person to follow because she's always going to have some kind of concept in money. And that's what we like to follow. Content producers. Yeah, or me.
You be there sometimes.
Every other year. Where can we stay connected?
Yes, absolutely. So as the founder of Insta Podcast, you can find more about what we do at podcast inside our podcast and media agency at instapodcast.com. You can find more about me on Instagram at Jessica Hurley, HURLEY_. And then my podcast, and I'm just going to introduce this on here because I know it's going to happen, and this will come out whenever. It'll be perfect timing. I know it'll be perfect timing. Plus, we're on the back end. We get to produce it. So you could find us at The Stranded Phase, which was the podcast that I've been doing for 4.5 years now, over 150,000 downloads, transformative stories, and I've opened up very vulnerably on there. But I decided today.
Okay. Exclusive.
Oh, okay.
I decided today. This has come up in my head a lot, but it got very clear today, being alone and being in isolation for a while, was I'm not stranded anymore.
Oh,
and
that part. Cheers to that.
I'm not stranded anymore, and so I'm changing the name of the show, which will still be on all your favorite platforms, same link. We're gonna call it Rich in Real Life.
Hey, yo, can I tell you something? 2 months ago, I said, what you call things as they are, Jess is gonna need to change the name, because if she keeps it at the stranding,
I'm gonna stay stuck.
Phase, she'll stay stuck. But I never said any things. I thought that was rude of me.
I thought the same thing of the name. I was just like, I feel like she's not stranded anymore, but okay.
That was 4 years ago. That was when I was figuring it out.
Yes.
I was using it as a tool to network and get to know people.
Yeah. And then you've done so much work and you've helped so many people in that phase, you know?
But the final hoorah was the last 6 months. I have been in spaces that I dreamt about. I have been in rooms that I have dreamt about.
Yes.
And the last room I was in, when I realized every single person in that room saw me as I present myself, and the only person that didn't was me, I was like, but you choosing this life. You got to get out of here.
Yeah.
You are choosing this.
Listen.
So.
And on that note,
all the chills.
That exclusive.
We in Miami. It's hot. And I've had chills the entire time.
The entire day.
Goosebumps, all the things. It's just okay. How can we stay connected with you, Alicia?
You can stay connected with me everywhere on Beyonce's internet at Alicia Reese. All the places. What about you, Danny?
I'm at Miss Danny Foster. You can go to DannyFosterCoaching.com. Where you can go to our Instagram at TriggeredAFPC. You can go to our website at TriggeredAFPodcast.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm pretty sure this is my favorite episode of all time. I hope, as we always say, we just hope that these episodes are bringing the healing and the enlightenment that you need. Share with your friends, share with your mama, share with your enemies, share with anybody that you think.
They need it too.
Yeah, anybody that you think can benefit, listen to it over and over again, because I promise you I'll go back and listen to these episodes and I'll catch something completely new.
Yeah.
So, sometimes when it comes to these podcasts, they're not just one and done. They're really full, and there's a lot of like information. You can't just hear it one time. So re-listen to them, get what you can from them, and we will see you guys next time on Trigger AF the Podcast. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came, or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.